Mannerist architecture and sculpture in Poland dominated between 1550 and 1650, when it was finally replaced with Baroque. The style includes various Mannerist traditions, which are closely related with ethnic and religious diversity of the country, as well as with its economic and political situation at the time. The Mannerist complex of Kalwaria Zebrzydowska and Mannerist City of Zamość are UNESCO World Heritage Sites. Conditions of development and features. The period between 1550 and 1650 was a golden age of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and a golden age of Poland. It was a time of economic prosperity due to grain trade. Grain was kept in richly embellished granaries and transported along the Vistula to the main port of Poland, Gdansk, where it was sold to the Netherlands, England, France, Italy and Spain. It was also the time of religious tolerance due to the Warsaw Confederation. Poland was multinational and multi-religious country. All those nations and worships contributed to creation of the exceptional diversity of Mannerist architecture and sculpture in Poland. The first half of the 17th century is marked by strong activity of the Jesuits and Counter-Reformation, which led to banishing of progressive Arians in 1658 and which has its reflection in architecture. Despite that Poland remained a country without stakes, all the major wars and military conflicts were conducted far from the territory of today's Poland, so the country could develop equally. Those favorable conditions are the reason why Mannerist architecture and sculpture in Poland left so many beautiful examples. The Mannerist architecture and sculpture have two major traditions, Polish, Italian and Dutch, Flemish, that dominated in northern Poland. The Silesian Mannerism of southwestern Poland was largely influenced by Bohemian and German Mannerism, while the Pomeranian Mannerism of northwestern Poland was influenced by Gothic tradition and northern German Mannerism. The Jews in Poland adapted patterns of Italian and Polish Mannerism to their own tradition. Major inspiration for many structures in Poland were early Renaissance constructions at Worrell Hill, Sigismund's Chapel, tomb of King Sigismund I inside the chapel and Worrell Castle's arcade courtyard, as well as buildings in Antwerp, City Hall, houses at Grote Markt and funeral sculptures by the Flemish artist Cornelis Floris de Vriend. In conclusion, the main criterion of differentiation between types of Mannerism in Poland is the source of inspiration and in many cases the founder's conception played an essential role for the final shape of the construction. Triangle gables of late Gothic origin and large windows are the features of Dutch urban architecture in northern Poland. The Polish Mannerism, though largely dominated by Italian architects and sculptors, has its unique characteristics that differentiate it from its Italian equivalent. Among notable architects and sculptors of Dutch, Flemish Mannerism in Poland were Antonis van Obbergen, Willem van den Blok, Abraham van den Blok, Jan Strakowski, Paul Bordath, Gerhard Hendrik, Hans Kramer and Regnier van Amsterdam, and of Polish, Italian Mannerism Santi Gucci, Jan Michalowicz of Urzędów, Giovanni Maria Padovano, Giovanni Battista di Quadro, Jan Frankowicz, Galeazzo Appiani, Jan Jarosławicz, Bernardo Mirando, Caspar Fodiga, Christoph Bonadura, Antonio de Gallia and many others. The architecture of the 16th century Polish Mannerism is marked by common usage of richly embellished attics of palaces and houses, arcade courtyards and side towers. The church architecture combined the late Gothic tradition with Renaissance symmetry and Mannerist decoration. Churches were slender, usually without towers. The 17th century Polish Mannerism characterized with much more simplicity and decoration in benefit to harmony of the construction. The model to the early 17th century residences were royal palaces. Urzędow Castle, constructed for King Sigismund III Vasa also was possible inspiration to the Bishop Palace in Kielce, whereas the Kielce Palace was imitated by many magnate families in the residences. This type of the palace is known as Poggio Reale because it combined a square building with a central loggia with side towers as in Villa Poggio Reale near Naples according to conception of Baldassare Peruzzi in Sebastiano Serlio. Side towers become an obligatory element of every palace and funeral church. Chapels, modeled after mentioned Sigismund's chapel, flourished all over Poland. Another characteristics of the Mannerism in Poland are city and palace fortifications built in Dutch style and town halls with high towers. The most popular decoration techniques were relief, sgraffito and rustication, whereas the material was mainly plastered brick, sandstone and sometimes limestone. For some time the late Renaissance coexisted with early Baroque. Dutch, Flemish and Polish, Italian architectural traditions were not isolated and penetrate each other to create a unique composition of Kratopa Palace. This, one of the largest constructions of Mannerism and early Baroque in Poland, was intended as a fortified palace. The complex combined Dutch-style fortifications with a palace built to Italian design, Mannerist Polish decoration and some other, presumably Dutch elements. The palace was destroyed during the deluge and currently remains in ruins. Lublin region created its own style with folk motives, while the urban Mannerism in Greater Poland replaced the Gothic gables with Italian-style arcades, tympanums, friezes and pillars in Tuscan order. Warsaw, as one of the main cities of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth and due to its role as seat of parliament and king, was a place of meetings of cultures. The Mannerist architecture in the city was a combination of many types of Mannerist traditions, including Lublin type, Greater Poland Mannerism, Italian Mannerism with elements of early Baroque, Lesser Poland Mannerism, Poggio Reale type, Bohemian and Flemish, Dutch Mannerism. The Bohemian Mannerism had also large influence on the architecture and sculpture in Poland. This concerned not only the lands that were part of the Kingdom of Bohemia, like Silesia. The familiar relations between the Habsburgs and the Polish Vases enabled to draw from the patterns of Prague Mannerism. Both King Sigismund III and his son Vladislav IV Vasa as well as magnates purchased many sculptures in Prague, especially those by Adrian de Vries. Bohemian Mannerism in Silesia joined the Prague Renaissance with its Brunelleschian arcades and German influences originating from the late Gothic. Also Silesian Mannerism had its impact on neighboring regions. The arcade courtyard of the Pist castle in Brzeg with arcades replaced in upper parts with columns was possible inspiration for similar constructions in Bohemia. Opokno Castle, Jindřichův Castle and Schloss Güstrow in Germany. Characteristic for Jewish Mannerism in Poland is adjustment of the Polish-Italian patterns to the Jewish tradition, rejection of human images in benefit to the sophisticated floral animal decorations, mythological creatures and Hebrew inscriptions. The synagogues were adorned with horizontal attics and had a richly decorated interior. The main decorating techniques were fresco, relief and stucco. The sculpture is mainly represented in sepulchral art and decorations of facades. Freestanding sculptures are rare, though before the deluge gardens of many residencies were adorned with sculptures. Also the freestanding tomb monuments were uncommon. The tombs were generally constructed to be attached to the wall. Exception is the Niedzwiecki brothers' tomb in Kopernika. During the first stage of Mannerism in Poland, the tomb monuments were constructed according to the early Renaissance tradition, where the deceased was depicted sleeping. They were generally made of sandstone, while the founder's figure was carved in red marble. In the beginning of the 17th century, Dutch and Flemish architects and sculptors popularized in Poland a new type of tomb monument originating from the Cornelis Florius workshop. The founders were depicted kneeling. The construction was more spacious and it employed darker materials: brown marbles from Chessony, black marbles from Debnec or imported from the Spanish Netherlands. Some of the most impressive Dutch-style tombs in Poland were constructed far from the center of Flemish-Dutch Mannerism in Poland, Gdansk. These were tombs of Jan Tarnowski in Lowicz and of Ostrogski family in Tarnow. Many of the Mannerist structures in Poland are post-war reconstructions. They were destroyed by the Germans during the World War II or damaged in Allied aerial bombings. Also, many were not restored after the war. List of notable Mannerist structures in Poland.